Let's move to LeBron James and his I Promise school in the Akron area. LeBron's received quite a bit of fanfare for opening the school, using part of his foundation's money to help fund the school along with the state of Ohio. LeBron has now put out a documentary over Quibi, a series of short 8-10-minute short feature stories that they're calling a documentary about the I Promise school. LeBron obviously has millions of social media followers. I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of the documentary, and I'm certainly not a fan of putting that kid out there in this way. He's a third or fourth grader. I think what LeBron has done in contributing money to the I Promise school, lending his name, I think all of that is great. I don't like putting these kids and their struggles on public display when they're just third or fourth graders. I think it's too early for a documentary. I'm disappointed by this. And again, I think what LeBron's trying to do here is great, but I'm just not sure every kid needs to be a reality TV show, particularly when they're struggling in this manner.
And I understand your sentiment in terms of exposing the kids who the whole goal of I Promise is to actually help these kids so where they can go from a mindset and a reality of just surviving to thriving. So why expose a kid when that kid can turn over a new leaf and actually do the things that we all desire them to do? So I respect what you said. At the same time, it's very difficult to have effective change without a brutal, honest confrontation of the reality. The hardest pill for all of us to swallow in this world is reality. And as we had Chris Spillman on talking about the locker room, the fact that why that's such a special place, because I'm in the real world and I've been in the locker room, is that we get issues handled because we directly confront the issue at hand. And hearing about something is not as impactful as seeing it. And for those who criticize seeing it, I criticize you and wonder how much are you really trying to change it. A lot of people can hear someone's plight. A lot of people heard my plight, my story before. But walk in my shoes, or at least let me get you as close virtually as you can to walking in my shoes. I think I hit you at a different place in your heart. And I think that was the intention of this documentary.
Yeah, you both make great points. The distinction for me is, Marcellus, you are an adult, and we've seen the width and breadth of your story. So we saw the beginning, and we've seen the end. This hits close to home for me because I had experience with my son where he was probably the same age as the kid in LeBron's Instagram post, and he made 2 free throws in middle school to win a game. And I posted it. I had a video of it. I posted it on Instagram and said how proud I was of him for a multitude of reasons. And he came to me and he said, Dad, I wish you had asked me before you posted that. And what it made me realize that he knows, as every kid this age, as that kid no doubt does, is that no matter what you put out there, social media, it can be a cruel, vicious place. And this was a positive for my son and far fewer people seeing it. I can't help but think about there are more than or almost 5 million people who saw this kid in his worst moment. And is it really worth putting it out there? As a journalist, I often have to tell stories about people and their hardships, and it can be difficult, and sometimes they don't necessarily love having that story out there. But I've never done it with a kid, and that's the part that I just can't get past, that is a gut punch to me, is to think about what that kid has to deal with, because more than 5 million people out there saw him in this moment. And if there's a happy ending to this, then maybe it's worthwhile, but we don't know that yet.
Yeah, I think of like the greatest sports documentary that I can ever remember is Hoop Dreams. And Hoop Dreams was filmed over like a 10-year period or a very long period. And by the time it came out, the kids that they were showing growing up were adults. and they could, deal with the ramifications, fallout of this. I'm even now just even having this conversation thinking about when I was a newspaper journalist in Kansas City, we had a high school phenom running back that was, everybody thought 5-star, he's going to be this huge deal. And they wrote about him as a 16 or 17-year-old, and he was dating a grown woman at the time, or a 20, 21-year-old. And I just thought it was like, whoa, we don't need, this is a kid, this is a teenager. We don't need to be putting his business out in the street in this fashion. And when I look at a 3rd or 4th grader, and I just think about how kids, being kids, and how cruel they are and how they like to tease, I just wouldn't want this kid captured in this way. And I know, again, LeBron's intentions, I think, were positive. He put out a supportive message, hey, we're with you, or something with the IG post, trying to support the kid. I just don't think this is the way to do it. Kids need the opportunity to fail and have problems in private, not shared with the world.
Well, that's very difficult to do when you think about the condition that really is enabling this situation to even be a reality. And that is not private, but it's not getting properly discussed. So I think LeBron is actually coming from a place where he's inspired to share this story, to inspire others, as he was inspired to even open up the school in Cleveland. You think about it, Jalen Rose had his academy in Detroit, and I remember that landing with me, and I'm sure it landed with LeBron in terms of, you telling this story of these kids, and it inspires you to do something for yourself and your condition. And this condition, the class where this kid is from, this part of Akron, the issue is it's going to eat its own. So I understand the privacy of this kid that needs to be fully respected. But if you don't change the conditions, all you're going to do is throw more kids into that fire to be disposed of. And I think that LeBron had to say the greater good is to show the plight of this condition. And maybe that did make him put this kid in a compromised position, unfortunately, but it's for a greater good.
I get that, and I do agree it's a noble cause, and sometimes to motivate people, we have to put difficult scenes and pictures and images out there. But again, we're in a world today where, did that kid sign up for that? I love that the school is trying to help him. I hope that it does, and it's terrific that LeBron is providing that for that kid. But does coming along with that being an advertisement for the ills of society? I just don't, even if the kid or the kid's parents consented to it, sometimes we have to step back and say, is this really in the best interests, and what's our ultimate motive? And if it's helping the kid, I'm not convinced that putting that scene out there for him without any other positive scenes, anything else is really what we're all after.
Well, I would tend to think they probably put out some positive deal. I think it's too early for a documentary on the I Promise School. We won't know for 5, 6, maybe 10 years if it's successful. And I think if we're going to shine a spotlight, let's shine a spotlight on the parents, because I guarantee you, and again, I don't know what's going on with this kid. I have no idea. But whatever's going on with kids generally is a reflection of what's going on with their parents and the adults in their lives. Let's put the spotlight there. Maybe we can change some behavior there.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. And be sure to check out more of the best clips from Speak For Yourself, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.